information. Jay and Janine are expressing their own opinions, and such is not a substitute for psychological or mental health advice. If you are experiencing an emergency, please hang up and call 911.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show, where we're talking everything personal development, coaching, health, and the law. I'm your host, Jay, here with co-host Janine.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Please join us on Facebook, where we can be found at the Momentum Mindset Show. And if you want to call in and be part of the show, we would love to hear from you. It's 888-565-1470. And if being on live radio is not your thing, no problem. Send us your comments and we will interact with you on Facebook.
Let's create some momentum.
Oh, well, hello, everybody. I actually thought I was going to do the show on my own for a time. Jay, you surprised me. Welcome.
I'm learning to time travel.
I can't hear you. Jay, cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I hope other people can hear you. I can't, but I kind of need to hear you. You guys, as you know, it's a live show, so please bear with us. But welcome, everybody, to the Momentum Mindset Show. As we've been saying for the last several weeks, we are going all things legal. And I'm hoping that we can get our technological issues sorted out. Let me see what our producers say. Let's see.
Hopefully you're going to be able to.
Let me see if it's me in any way, shape, or form. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Okay, so.
Oh, Lordy. Okay, we're going to have to sign language, I think. Or.
Well.
I wish I knew what you were talking about, but I'm sure it's fascinating. Go ahead.
I'm not talking. You talk. You talk. I don't know if it was you or if it was me, but I'm going to start this process over again and see.
Jay, they're asking you to talk. Hello, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us in our little technical issues. Again, the joys of a live show. Listen, so this is the Momentum Mindset Show. And again, welcome. I am your host, Janine Davis, and hopefully soon my co-host, Jay Farrow, will be joining us.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I still can't hear him, so I'm thinking maybe it's me.
You can't hear me? You still can't hear me?
Okay.
No? All right.
Okay.
You still can't hear me?
Okay, I am back on. Oh my goodness. Okay, okay. Can you all hear me? So we are dedicating the last several shows to taking a little bit of a legal slant. As you all know, Jay and I work together in a law firm. He's the attorney, and I actually run the practice and do all things client services. So I've had a tremendous education in the law. But you know what? To regulate all of this situation, we're actually being asked to take a break. We're going to go to commercials straight away, so please bear with us and please tune back in because we've got a great show for you. We really want to connect and see you on the other side of this break. Thanks.
There is nothing business about getting defrauded. It is always personal. Did you know that there are special laws that allow victims of personal and business crime the ability to prosecute and collect money damages in court? These laws can triple the amount of damages you may be entitled to. Farrow Law Firm is a boutique firm that prosecutes business crimes in civil courts. At Farrow Law Firm, we support people to stand up to the bullies using unorthodox methods of legal practice, which focuses on urgency and the relentless obsession for justice. If you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give us a call today for a free confidential consultation. Farrow Law Firm, 954-252-9818. Again, if you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give Farrow Law Firm a call at 954-252-9818.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show
with Jay and Janine. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
Okay, and welcome back to the Momentum Mindset Show. We have a bit of technical difficulty, but Janine should be joining us here in a little bit. And we wanted to let you know that for the last number of weeks and for the foreseeable future, we have decided to use our skills, knowledge, and experience in the legal field to answer a lot of our community's questions regarding how the law or how the coronavirus is affecting things going on legally for people's lives. We've had questions regarding mortgages, and we've had questions regarding paying the rents and whether or not you have to wear a mask at your employment, and whether you can decide not to show up at your employment if you feel unsafe. And so we've been fielding a lot of different questions from our viewers about that. And we have, see if Janine just joined us again. Janine, can you hear me?
Yes, thankfully I can hear you now.
That's
Amen.
awesome. I was explaining to our viewers and our listeners what we've been up to for the last number of weeks, and our commitment to do this for the foreseeable future is to answer, to the extent we can, the questions about how the coronavirus is affecting the law and legal issues in people's lives. And this week we have a number of questions that we've received about how certain things are developing, and it's an interesting time, and things are happening more rapidly than others. And I'll give you an example. That there, some months ago, there was a decision made to put a moratorium on foreclosures, meaning that foreclosure cases had to stop in Florida as they were. To give you an idea of what that means, that if the foreclosure case was already filed or about to be filed, that it could no longer have, it could no longer be moving forward for the next 3 months. And the purpose was,
Jay, could you speak a little bit more to how that, I know you're going to follow, but also how that would impact a plaintiff? Because we actually have a client who's attempting to foreclose, and she's a little frustrated that she can't, move forward with her foreclosure. So it benefits some and then kind of doesn't benefit others for a period of time.
Unfortunately for the banks, and in our case, people that own mortgages that people are paying on. In other words, if I own a house and I give a private mortgage to somebody, I'm subject to the same moratorium of foreclosure as a bank, and unfortunately, that does affect. I mean, some people more than others, because if you think about it, that people that do have commercial or residential paper, and that's the subject of a mortgage, you're getting payments, and those payments stop, you can't institute a foreclosure action for a number of months. But these moratoriums are going to be lifted soon, and we're going to be back to business as usual. Some parts of the country sooner than others, but here in Florida, I believe it was only a 3-month moratorium. So we're about to get kicked up into high gear with new foreclosures and otherwise. And in my experience, over the last decade in foreclosure law. I mean, there was when 2008 the financial crisis hit. Between 2008 and 2010, you had hundreds of thousands of new foreclosure filings in Florida, and over time, most of those cases have been resolved. But it took about 5 to 6 years in some cases for foreclosures to go through the process. And there's a number of reasons why that happened. Hundreds of thousands of cases flooding the court system at the same time. The issues surrounding who owned the mortgages, and also just the ability for judges to handle that massive of an influx of new cases. So over time, over the last decade, there is a substantial drop in the amount of foreclosures, and that's corresponding to a solid financial, a solid real estate market, and also unemployment being the lowest levels that it was in 50 years. That's all changed in a month.
Correct.
When I was studying foreclosure, the foreclosure laws back in 2008, 2009, 2010, there was a significant correlation between unemployment and the amount of mortgages, foreclosures that were filed. And that makes sense.
Sure.
So to give you hundreds of thousands of foreclosures being filed at 14% unemployment. And we're back there, or actually exceeded there now. And I saw that there was a number of the job losses of 25 million of jobs that were lost, and they're saying that the unemployment rate was higher than it's ever been since the Great Depression last week. So in response to all of this, mortgage companies and the federal government have allowed for mortgages to be put into forbearance. And I don't want to get forbearance mixed up with the mortgage foreclosure moratorium. A mortgage forbearance is something.
I'm so sorry. Could you explain to people maybe a little bit about moratorium means in general, what it could mean for a homeowner or someone who is currently in foreclosure, right? So we're making the distinction here. So the moratorium, how does it work? Does it just mean that the process of the legal process, if you're already in foreclosure, it just means that the legal process has paused?
Right. It just means that the legal process has paused. So if you were late and you're about to get sued for foreclosure before coronavirus, there's a moratorium on filing new cases and proceeding with existing cases during this time period, this 3 months. I thought it was 3 months. It might have been extended, but I haven't heard anything yet. That moratorium is not what I'm talking about with forbearance. A mortgage forbearance is that you're paying your mortgage, you're timely paying your mortgage, Corona hits, and mortgage companies are allowing some people to take 3 months off of paying their mortgage, and what they do is they take those 3 months and they put them at the end of the mortgage term. So most mortgages are 30 years, 15 or 30 years. So at the end of the mortgage, if it was supposed to end in January, it's now going to end in March or April. So while you get a reprieve from paying your mortgage for a few months, you don't get excused from paying that. And there's a lot of confusion about what all that means. And
right, so it's not a debt forgiveness. They're tacking it on to the end. Right.
They're tacking it on to the end. Right.
And we would also probably want to urge people to pay close attention to your mortgage statements, and don't take anything for granted, because in our experience in the practice, we've seen a lot of people fall into foreclosure by accident because there was a misapplied payment, or there was not a note taken properly in the system. They thought they were in forbearance, but then they weren't. There's miscommunications that can happen within the bank or the servicer that could create headaches for people. Isn't that true, Jay?
There is a number of ways that mistakes happen when you have the ordinary course of a mortgage be interrupted by a forbearance or a temporary suspension in payments, because that can interrupt. There's not, it's. I explain it like this: there's not necessarily a forbearance button at the bank. Um, the bank's computer systems and the bank's record systems and everything else are geared to, send out automatic notices for mortgage statements, send out notices for default, send out notices that taxes are coming up. But when I have a forbearance payment that's initiated, sometimes the person on the other end of the line, when they're accepting this forbearance, doesn't set it up correctly. So all of a sudden, your payments are due in 3 months. So all of a sudden, instead of having a $2,000 mortgage payment in August, you have a $9,000 mortgage payment in August. And believe me, fixing something like that takes like an act of God or an act of Congress. Because one thing about the mortgage companies is that it's not like they're geared for it. This is not a usual circumstance. So you have to be hyper vigilant. First of all, it's not automatic. It's not, and it doesn't apply to every single mortgage. So if you're thinking that, well, I heard, and there's a lot of this out there now, Janine. Oh, I heard there's a mortgage forbearance, I don't have to pay it, or there's a moratorium. There's no automatic. You don't pay your mortgage. And I fear that there's going to be a number of foreclosures that happen by accident that are going to wind up in the courtroom because nobody fixed it. And mind you, there's cases I know about even back in 2008, 2009, 10, where people were actually paying on their mortgage, but because the mortgage had bounced around to so many servicers, it wasn't, the payments were misdirected to the wrong company. So you can do everything in a crisis situation and still wind yourself up in litigation.
Foreclosure action.
So the best thing to do is get anything in writing, save all your emails, make sure you know who you're talking to on the phone, get their employee ID number, especially when you're about to put your mortgage into a different circumstance.
Right.
A lot of other things going on in the banks. The other question we're getting is, the bank has frozen my equity line of credit, like my home equity line of credit. This is something that there's a question out there. Is it possible for a bank to suspend or lessen my equity line of credit? Look at your equity line of credit documents. It's very possible, because this is like a credit card against your house, that in times like these, they can reevaluate the risk of how much credit they're willing to give you or how much your house is worth. It's like a credit card. There's nothing that entitles you to the amount of credit that you were once given. A credit card company can reduce overnight the amount of credit that you were given based upon your credit score, by your credit worthiness. So if you're looking for the equity in your house to save, to give you a cushion during these times, some lenders, I understand, I saw an article about Wells Fargo, are not taking applications on any more home equity lines of credit. I don't know exactly if that means they're completely suspended, if they suspended it for a week, maybe they had too many applications, but there are a number of things that are transforming. And here's around the country, and I've seen this on Facebook and I've seen this on the news and everything else like that. You have a war between facts and science and what I call bra science. You have people just claiming that they're going to do whatever they want, nothing matters. Let me tell you something right now. Your mortgage company believes that you owe them money. And I'm not trying to be funny here. I mean, there's nothing that you're going to be able to do with arguing with the math of your mortgage company.
Right.
In other words, some people want to say the stay-at-home orders are this, the stay-at-home orders are that. Yeah, there's some people that don't joke around with like facts, and the facts are in that particular circumstance is that there are no automatic mortgage forbearances. You need to apply for it, request it. A mortgage moratorium only means that your foreclosure case, if you're in one, is suspended for 3 months, and as soon as that's finished, the lawyers for the banks, or in our case, for the individual owning your mortgage, are going to fire up the foreclosure action. So in either instance, this is only a temporary reprieve from your other obligations. So
Right.
it's amazing how much misinformation or how much rumors get traction, or
Yeah.
that it's like you see something flash on the news screen, mortgage forbearances for all. I'll be honest, it does not apply to all mortgages. It doesn't.
Right.
So
Important this is a very important thing. And guys, we have talked about this subject before, but we see it coming up time and time again. So we don't mean to be repetitive. It really is in service to people, because what you don't know can hurt you. What you don't know is that people assume too many things and that they get themselves into a pickle. When you're not vigilant about your statements, payments can be misapplied. You could find yourself in trouble even though you've been paying on time. There are many different nuances and mistakes that can happen anytime that there is any kind of forbearance or anything of this, even if you qualify for one. So we're just urging people to be extra vigilant and know that their financial well-being is with your the bank is never going to come in and say, "Oh, my bad." It takes, like Jay was saying, it takes acts of God sometimes to correct these missteps from the servicers and from the bank. So it's really important to labor that point so that you can have the information that you need to make sure that you're protecting yourself as best as possible.
yeah, we got a question that just came in from Glenia. It says, "Can a landlord raise my rent during this time period?" The short answer is that a landlord cannot, in most leases, raise the rent. Key is read your lease. It could say that the rent could go up a certain percentage per month. It's rare, but it's possible that your lease could say something like that. Now, if your landlord is raising the rent at this time period and they're not entitled to, I would say that they're in a bit of trouble, because in the states, everybody has an attorney general's office, and if a landlord is starting to play games with rent during a time like this, call the attorney general's office and file a complaint.
Could it be considered price gouging, Jay?
It's not it's a lot of things. There are specific laws that make it criminal in certain crises, hurricanes, COVID-19, to start price gouging, to start taking advantage of the situation, especially with the elderly, especially with people with special needs. If it's happening, certainly there's an economic crimes unit of most state attorney's office in the state of Florida. I would say, take care of that. A lot of questions, Janine. We say we're answering the same questions. I think that some of this is new information that we're having, because information is changing.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
No, the other thing is, like, why are they taking posts down off Facebook? And the short answer to that is, you can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. I mean, there's certain things. First of all, Facebook's a private company, and I think it's entitled to do basically what it wants to. And if it sees that there's content,
doesn't apply to Facebook.
Huh?
Free speech doesn't apply to Facebook.
What are you saying? I didn't
No,
catch what you.
people could say, I I made a post and Facebook didn't like it, but isn't it their right? Under free, they're not, Facebook users are not protected under free speech, is what I'm asking.
No, they're protected under free speech, but the thing is Facebook's a private company. You can say whatever you want, but when you're posting it through a private company, they get the opportunity to filter through and see, what they want posted, what they're posted. Listen, you can't post child porn under the First Amendment. You can't post information related to national.
That's a crime.
I'm giving egregious like things because I've seen some of these things that are on Facebook for a second and then they're taken down, and you wonder to yourself like where the content came from, but how dangerous it is to post something looking like I've seen like different things out there, but it's like if it's information that's harmful or Facebook wants to take it down, I don't know, because everybody's got a conspiracy and everybody's got their conspiracy and everybody's right about it.
Right.
Short answer is this. How about this one? Here's a fact, fun fact. Facebook, private company. Facebook gets to decide what content it wants on their website and what content it doesn't want on their website, and that might support some people and it might not support other people. But do a gut check on that of what content they're actually taking down. Most of it isn't like two people hugging a bear, and sharing love. It's usually something else.
Okay. And fair enough, and good. It is a private company, and they have to they are regulating it the way they see fit. So I think that that's a good reminder for all of us when using any platform, that ultimately the platform has the right to exercise their rules and regulations upon the platform.
So another one is, is there a limit to the amount of money I can take out of the bank at one time? Oh, if it's my money. I was going to say, yeah, the amount of your bank balance.
Yeah, right. But that's always, to me, this is such a great question. So usually, how is that? And I don't know if it's, but the banking rules are very interesting. They do ask you an inordinate amount of questions about your own money. And sometimes they do limit how much of your own money you can take out, particularly in cash. So this is kind of an interesting thing.
If you're taking out more than $10,000, you should call your bank first and let them know that you're coming. You should probably bring private security with you. But honestly, you have the right to take out your money. But you got to give them reasonable notice. If you're taking out an inordinate amount of money and it's a bank, smaller bank, something like that, they only have so much to certain things at that particular day. Now, you can order it, call and say, I'm coming and I'm going to ask that this is going to be a major withdrawal and I want it in cash, and there's nothing that they could do to stop you. Although
you do have to fill out paperwork if you want to take out more than $10,000.
Okay, so they might be doing that for I would say this: call your bank. There's no reason, from what I've heard, to do a run on the bank at this moment. Then again, when the moment comes that there is a time to run on the bank, it's probably too late to do a run on the bank. If you don't feel comfortable with your money in the bank, no, think about it. I'm just saying, because I'm playing the whole thing through. It's like if you don't feel that it's safe to keep your money in the bank, no one's stopping you from keeping your money in the bank. If you feel like there's a way to buy 100,000 widgets with your money and the deal you can't pass up tomorrow, call your bank, take out your money. But these are the types of questions that we're getting. I think it's fair. One of the other ones, Janine, is what rights have I given up during this time period? What rights have we lost?
Yes, we heard that question today. What rights indeed? I'd be curious to what your take is on that.
I when you talk about rights, you're talking about certain rights under the Constitution, and that's the right to due process of law. There's a right to privacy, um, but there's no like guarantee of things that people think that they automatically have. Um, in this, in Florida, we have had a stay-at-home order by an issue of the governor for a public health emergency that was declared. And during that time period, there was an order for us to stay home. I believe there was a curfew in some areas.
Yes.
And does that mean that you didn't have the right to go out and do whatever you want? I don't know. I mean, it seemed to me that it was liberal enough because it didn't say stay at home. Period. It said unless you're performing an essential activity, going to the grocery store. I think there's like a carve out for some religious exceptions. There are some other things, but all in all, this wasn't a forever order. I don't know how you characterize it as I lost my rights during that time, other than I'm part of this community called Florida. I've agreed to certain laws. Listen, when you go and you take your driver's license test, you agree in exchange for the privilege to drive a car to stop at a red light. Does that mean that you've lost the right to not stop at the red light? You know, it's like that. We have a social contract, and part of that social contract, and part of being this part, is we agree to comply with the law. And if there is a lawful order to stay at home, you know, there was a lawful order to stay at home. Is it being lifted? It's being lifted. I think there's a lot of the collapse of the loss of rights that the government tells you, you know, whatever, you know, what you could do, what you can't do. I will say, I wanted to talk. I'm going where I was going with this, Jeannie, is that as it relates to what we're doing, other questions that we're getting have to do with employment.
Yes.
And the right to work.
An amount of questions have to do with employment.
So when you have a stay-at-home order, and you no longer can go to work because you worked at a restaurant, that doesn't mean that you don't have the right to work. It just means that you don't have the ability to go to the job that you once had. But if you wanted to go online and start a company, or teach, coach,
drive for Postmates, DoorDash,
or call up Uber to be a driver or a delivery driver for a business, it just meant that you have the ability to work at that particular job. But the government didn't say that you can't work. It didn't tell anybody that they couldn't work. It just said they didn't have the ability to do certain things for certain times. And this is where I find very interesting about this loss of rights conversation, because what's possible in life, let's say, and because I lived through Hurricane Andrew, and after Hurricane Andrew, there was no building to go back to. Not just the fact that there was a stay-at-home order, but there was no buildings to go back to. There was no business to go back to. You still had the right to work. You still had the right to become a construction worker. You could have joined some kind of a cleanup crew. I mean, your options might have been more limited, but when things like this happen, this calls forth from us questions about, what do I need to do to survive? What do I need to do to survive? And
right.
It might not be comfortable.
Well, I think that this whole question of what do I do to survive brings up it goes hand in hand with the government infringed my rights, because people become afraid, they become angry, and usually they've got to throw blame somewhere, right? So I think that those conversations go very much hand in hand, and it's really very fear-based. And I'm not judging anybody or blaming anybody, but those two things seem to go together.
So I have a tough one on this. I lost my rights. Um, I don't know. It's a tough. When there and because we decided to go legal, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. I think that in the context of what we've been dealing with, the right to work is really where the questions have come. Like, in other words, one of the questions again, like if I have a child at home and they can't go to school, can my work still force me to show up? These are profound questions about where do you find yourself in that circumstance. And what we were saying last week was, communication
Yes.
with your employer is the number one way to figure out a solution with your employer, whether it's your HR department or if it's a mom and pop. Calling them up and being honest with what you're capable of, and possibly seeking a solution of working from home and supporting in a different way and getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
law
Now is
may
ever
be,
it's so creative.
the law may be way too slow to support you. The law may be way too slow to support you.
Definitely.
So,
Jay, Glenny also wrote in, he says, a question, their unemployment fraud, identity theft is on the rise. How can we stop this? So I think this is more like an opinion question, but I don't know if you wanted to weigh in on that.
there's a lot of things on the rise, and you want to talk about just fraud in and of itself. I'm reading a lot of stories online about stimulus checks where people are getting phone calls, ask for their bank account number, saying, we have an error, received your stimulus check, or it didn't go out, and we want to send it to you as soon as possible. We need to get your bank routing number, your account number, your social security number. And so, yes, there's a lot of things like that out there. And I will say, like, anything else, a bit of common sense. If anybody's asking you to go to the store, how about this one? Because, Gene, we've seen this. Go to the store and go get some American Express cards. Go get and
Yes.
fill them up with $500 because you owe us money. In other words, we're a debt collector and we're willing to settle one of your debts for nothing. And or we're your mortgage company, and there's people out there that have gotten good at this. We're your
Yes.
mortgage company.
Crime rate.
We noticed that you're in default because you didn't pay the last month. And really what happens is you're in mortgage forbearance, but you don't know the difference. And they're like, well, you're going to need to pay us today, otherwise you're going to be in foreclosure. And when you hear those words, you don't understand what that means. It's an issue. And they say you're going to need to go immediately to get us a secure payment through an American Express payment card at your CVS pharmacy, and fill it up with $500 and call us back, and we will take the number over the phone. And as soon as you get the number, and then you never hear from them again. And we had a case just like this about a year and a half ago.
Yes,
And
we sure did.
so be on the lookout, because if you have a mortgage, you could be a target. If you're owed a stimulus check, you could be a target. I mean, I'm getting some random phone calls like every single day. If you're picking them up and you don't recognize the number, obviously you got to protect yourself. I mean, there's nothing magical out there that's automatically going to protect you.
Right.
Nothing.
Right. And so also too, if it doesn't feel right, or if something seems off to you, don't act right away. Like, think about it. Call somebody. Certainly do not disseminate your private information to a company that hasn't been vetted and you don't even know who you're talking to. I mean, this is, again, a little bit of common sense goes a long way. And we're not saying that people who fall into these traps, everybody can have a vulnerable moment. But usually it's our experience that when people fall prey to this kind of thing, they knew it in the moment. So we're saying, like,
Right.
take a second and stop. Don't react so quickly and just give all of your information because you're afraid.
Okay, so I'm going to give out our number. It's 888-565-1470. That's 888-565-1470. We'll see about taking some of your phone calls on the other side of this break, and we'll be right back.
Join us after these words.
There is nothing business about getting defrauded. It is always personal. Did you know that there are special laws that allow victims of personal and business crime the ability to prosecute and collect money damages in court? These laws can triple the amount of damages you may be entitled to. Farrow Law Firm is a boutique firm that prosecutes business crimes in civil courts. At Farrow Law Firm, we support people to stand up to the bullies using unorthodox methods of legal practice, which focuses on urgency and the relentless obsession for justice. If you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give us a call today for a free confidential consultation. Farrow Law Firm, 954-252-9818. Again, if you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give Farrow Law Firm a call at 954-252-9818.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show
with Jay and Janine. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Jay, we also got a couple of questions. Right now, there has been a rise in several different, in a few particular areas in the law. One of them being, of course, employment, which we've kind of touched on as well, but also divorce is on the rise. I think quarantine has, had an unintended effect, and clearly, obviously, these were relationships that were vulnerable to begin with, obviously, and then clearly divorce came about during this time because it became untenable, perhaps, to be cohabitating with someone that you usually may not have spent as much time with, or whatever the circumstances may be. So what is what can you suggest for people who are looking for divorce attorneys and looking for a solution to their complicated living situation?
Well, one thing is that in the state of Florida, for the last couple of months, murdering your spouse has been reduced from a first-degree homicide down to a misdemeanor. So, if that's something that
that's a joke, everybody. Please do not take it seriously.
I would say call a criminal lawyer. There's no easy answer for that. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of people out there that are going through a tremendous emotional roller coaster, being quarantined with someone that they, like you said, it was a vulnerable relationship to begin with. I, having litigated a number of divorces in my career, know that it's possible for the parties to get through a divorce simply because it's actually a simple process. Unfortunately, we things. There are, I mean, a divorce could be as easy as filing a petition for dissolution, entering what's called a marriage settlement agreement, which is your assets, your liabilities, right down the middle. Because in Florida, it's called a no-fault state, so it doesn't matter who's at fault necessarily in divorce, whether one spouse was cheating, one spouse was taking the credit cards and spending like crazy. Everything gets split pretty much down the middle, and
it ends up being a math equation, really, in terms of separating the assets, correct?
It becomes one big math equation, as does child sharing. So and it happens like this. It depends on the child's age. They divvy up the holidays, the birthdays, 1 year on, 1 year off, 2 weeks for winter break, 2 weeks for the spring break, and then the summers are split. So it can be a very, very amicable, easy process. We complicate things, and rarely is it that simple. But divorces have not stopped. So court proceedings are proceeding as normal in most instances. The things that are not proceeding right now still, and we just got an order not too long ago that courthouses are not going to be fully open until the beginning of July, and I suspect, this is my opinion, that likely it's going to be longer than that before they're going to cram people into elevators in any of our courthouses to go to live hearings. The judges have done a very effective job of running their calendars Monday through Thursday and having large hearings on special sets. And so the wheels of justice are turning, although they're not turning in person. So divorce cases fall within that. You file a dissolution. You will get a hearing before a judge, meaning that, but it takes time. It takes time, like anything else. And since there's no provision yet for how we're going to handle trials, non-jury trials, and this is what this would be in a divorce case, you're looking at, who knows, 6 months, a year before you can go in there. Now, I will say this: if you file the divorce case and you're ready to rock and roll, you can have a hearing via Zoom. The court would get a copy of your marriage settlement agreement, approve the marriage settlement agreement, ask you a couple questions, and you are on with life. So if you don't have to fight over the Cuisinart and who's going to get it, who owns it, then great. If you decide that there are certain issues that need to be fleshed out, of course, that's something that these cases unfortunately naturally attract.
Jay, even in our civil cases, what the job of a mediator and even the attorneys in sort of smoothing this out can also go a long way for people who are having more acrimonious split ups, correct?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to give a shout out to all of our Florida Supreme Court mediators out there, federally certified mediators, and mediators in general. Alternative dispute resolutions that are possible in any civil case are possible via Zoom. And I have had several in the last couple of months, and I have several in coming up. And it's an opportunity for all sides to recognize our current circumstances and present a third party. Mediator is a person who's disinterested, but not the judge, not the jury, that will basically give you a bird's eye view of how somebody would else see your case, see your legal position. And I got to tell you, it's some of these guys are so effective at what they do, and that two parties can walk in the same room or by Zoom at the beginning of the day, thinking that I'm coming out with $1 million, and at the end of the day, not come out anywhere close to that, and walk away happy because the dispute is resolved. Mediations can happen in family law cases. They can happen in small claims cases, and they can happen to cases that are $30 million cases. I so much believe in the alternative dispute process, because at the end of the day, there really are no secrets. It's like both sides know what they did, and it's
Yes.
not going to be 3 to 5 years from now. The question is, how much pain does somebody want to go through over the next number of years? And in some of these cases, they're a matter of public record, and they have a way of being made more public when a microphone is proverbial put to the clerk's office. And the last thing that anybody sometimes wants is to have attention drawn to their dispute. And that's what happens when anybody chooses to go to court to handle their dispute. No longer a private issue, and you lose your ability forever to have it be a private issue. So, I can't say enough about mediations, and I know, especially during this time, because of the uncertainties of how long it's going to take to get back to those judges and juries in person to present live witnesses. It's certainly something for all sides to consider, because on the one hand, the defense may be able to delay, and on the other hand, a sharp plaintiff might be able to figure out a way of sending out information requests or unturning information they wouldn't have otherwise had. And so each party's at somewhat of a disadvantage in this current legal environment. So the extent that anybody out there, whether it be in a mortgage foreclosure, in a family law scenario, they can ask their lawyer, or even the other side, can we go to a mediation? I would highly recommend that as we go through these unprecedented times.
Right, right, absolutely. So I think it's so important, and we wanted to bring all of these topics to you because a lot of times people feel that because there is a crisis going on, that they have no remedy. They have, their hands are tied. And we're sort of here telling you that's not true. There are alternatives to business as usual. And
Well,
we are,
it's a unique opportunity to renegotiate your lease, renegotiate the terms of your mortgage, renegotiate contracts that you have with your business partners, your suppliers, your vendors. It's about opening your mouth. It's about using your voice. It's about asking what's possible and doing it from a space of yesterday doesn't exist today anymore. You can't go by the old agreement if it's unable to be performed, but you can renegotiate. And now's the time to do
yeah.
it in any scenario. In any scenario. So uh, it is challenging, but it's not impossible.
Exactly, exactly. So the momentum mindset applies to absolutely every area of your life, including any legal matters that you may have at your hand. It's a way of thinking, it's a way of approaching life and possibilities, right? So that old adage, when you're given lemons, make lemonade. And we've certainly done that in our practice, and inventing new ways every day to be innovative and to be of service to people, because that's ultimately the point of the law, to be in service to people.
I was talking to someone today about foundations, and everybody builds a foundation for their life to do the things that they do, and those foundations are challenged from time to time. They're challenged right down to their core. Keep going and doing what you're doing. Believe in whatever you're working on, whatever you're pioneering, whatever your vision for the world is. Keep believing. Keep moving forward. In these times, possibility exists in darkness just as much,
Always.
if not more, as it exists in the light. This is truly a time of creation, connection, and chaos. And I know,
they all exist together. Yep, it is true.
and I know that if nothing else, in the last number of months, I've really become clear on the things that I believe in and what we're doing and what we're creating together, as far as a law firm that believes in getting people in and out and on with life and in an effective and efficient way. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done. And reach out to us with any other questions. Keep the questions coming. We really appreciate you. And we're going to keep this show answering these questions on a weekly basis in support of our community.
And don't try, y'all. Next time, pick up the phone or write into us on Facebook. We are here to answer any questions to the best of our ability that we can. So I want to wish it's a rainy afternoon here in South Florida. I know we have people from all over. I hope it's shining bright in Tacoma, Washington, Glennie. But we're so blessed to have so many beautiful days here that I can't complain about the rain. We probably needed it. So, want to wish everybody a fantastic weekend. Want to wish everybody to stay well and healthy and take care of each other. This is really the point of everything. I think that this has shown us that. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Momentum Mindset Show. For your hosts, Jay and Janine, we'll see you here next week. Thank you for being real, authentic, and honest.
If you'd like to reach us, please contact us on our Facebook page, The Momentum Mindset Show, or on our office phone line, which is 954-559-6987.
We are stronger together.
And remember, keep going.